Physical objects are a core building block of fantasy world building. The stranger, the better. They connect us to alternative realities and make a seemingly impossible world into a real thing that we feel like we've visited. But unfortunately, in much of modern gaming, the importance of physical objects that are not relevant to combat is in steep decline. How did that happen? All video game design, and unfortunately downstream of that, most of tabletop role-playing game design, is structured so that detail-rich environments like this are only useful to the player for one or two item pickups, often in obvious, easily accessible locations, even though just in this one screenshot we can see books, candles, flowing fabric, torches, scrolls, shelves, end tables, and countless other potentially important and useful objects. Because the video game designer can't account for how you might use that object. They might let you kick it around, but you can't solve real problems with it or interact with it in a meaningful way. You can gather almost everything in this screenshot, scrap it into resource units, and use it to make different fixed stuff. But you can't unravel this spool of yarn and use it in a new or creative way, or light this couch on fire as a distraction, because the number of potential uses for all this stuff is nearly infinite, and the video game designer can't model it all. And even though there's no reason to limit tabletop role-playing games in this way, we largely have, because the dominant players in the industry want you to basically emulate a video game at your table so they can profit from it. For Dungeons & Dragons, equipment peaked as an interaction point in the late 80s with 2nd edition, declining as soon as WotC arrived, down to a low point at 4th edition, and then ticking back up slightly in 5th. I've actually joked numerous times in my analysis videos about there being no treasure in 5e modules, and many commenters have pointed out that 5e design doesn't require it, because almost all personal improvement is in the form of abilities, not gear. Because again, influenced by video games, they are now making locations like this where they don't even expect you to interact with the space much at all. You just walk around and fight stuff. These are maps from Tyranny of Dragons, a popular recommendation to me to look at for my next analysis video series. It has 1,311 reviews on Amazon with an average rating of 5 stars, so I have to consider it a fairly representative work of what people expect from a mainstream tabletop role-playing game. So why do I even care about this stuff? Divergent thinking is the ability to see many uses for a single object. The classic example is, how many uses can you think of for a paperclip? When we are young, we have a very high capacity for this kind of thinking, and as we age, we become more rigid. But not this rigid. If Harry Potter doesn't have the key to this lock, or a spell to open it, or a set of lockpicks, he can't open this door. And as a result, this doesn't really feel like that real of a place. It feels like a video game. But this guy definitely could, because he's real and he has a lot of tools. And if you put more stuff in your role-playing games, your players will feel more real too. The players shouldn't be the only ones bringing equipment and tools into the dungeon or whatever space you're creating. Because divergent thinking is triggered by a prompt, something for your mind to grab onto and begin to come up with new and creative ideas. So you want to be filling your fantasy spaces with large amounts of physical objects to prompt the minds of your players, to get them to imagine the world more vividly, and to build up immersion. Every GM needs to be asking themselves constantly, what is in this location? What's really here? What could the players be using to solve their problems, beyond their character abilities, beyond the gamified elements? What do you think they could really think up on their own and propose to you as a solution? Move beyond the character sheet and fill your fantasy world with the objects you need to make it actually seem real. It will make your game a lot better. That's all I have for now. Chubby Funster out.